And we are recording. Hi, everyone. This is David P. France. I'm coming to you live, or we're going to be recording this, but we are talking live. And I'm coming from you. I'm actually in Basel, Switzerland. And I'm talking to Chris Young. Let me just read you his bio. Chris Young is a martial arts actor and model, and he's based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. At his school, Gong Lung, I have that right? Gong Lung?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Steel, which means steel dragon in English, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He and his students practice several styles of Chinese martial arts, including Eagle Claw, White Ape Connected Back, Xing-Yi, but I'm messing this one up.
Bagua.
Bagua. We had a rehearsal before, right? Bagua and Tai Chi. Additionally, they practice the Afro-Brazilian style of Capoeira Angola. And further, Steel Dragon is also well known for Chinese lion dance. And this is really interesting. We're going to go into this in detail. And the performance of which, how it got started. What do you mean by that? How it got started? Like you?
The origin of Gong Lung is lion dancing. I didn't mean to teach martial arts. My guys wanted to learn how to fight, so I said, "Okay, I'll teach you how to fight."
Okay. And it says Steel Dragon performs dragon dance as well. In terms of the modeling portion, he fell into it accidentally. He was scouted. And as it says here, you enjoyed it. And after a while, you decided to take it more seriously. In the hopes of the process, you also took up acting in the hopes that it would help your modeling.
Yes.
And it then says, as a result, thanks to no small part to his teacher, he also fell in love with acting as well. Well, let's get into it because there's so much. You and I met via social media during, I think it was like, what, how many years ago?
It was a while back.
It was a while back.
I can't remember how it happened, to be honest with you.
Well, I think at the time I was doing, and I'm still doing it, but not as much, photography with movement.
Right. Yeah.
And I was looking for models or people that could do both, and I could experiment with them, and they had knowledge of it. And you and I had notes back and forth, and we started talking. And you know, I think it might have been like 4 or 5 years later, right, or before. So tell everyone how you got involved with martial arts, your upbringing, your background, and we'll go from there.
Well, I've been doing martial arts since I was wee. I mean, I think I started when I was 7. And I started first, it's kind of funny. There wasn't any, or I wasn't aware of any Chinese martial arts. We were poor, so we couldn't afford to go to like, a good school anyway. So I just went to the YMCA and I learned judo. And I remember because those guys said, "Oh, well, you just land like this, and eventually you'll get used to it. It'll be comfortable." It never got comfortable, but anyway, I hate those landings, and you always get the air knocked out of you. So in a real fight, you're likely to get the stuffing beat out of you anyway because you have to recover. But that's another story. But anyway, so I did that and jujitsu and stuff like that growing up, and then I guess I started wondering, why am I taking Japanese martial arts when I'm half Chinese? And so I thought, combined with that, if we go back, like, I remember going to Chinatown when I was like 3 and seeing my first lion. And I always loved lions. So that was another thing that happened. So for my culture, because I don't really know my non-Chinese side very well, I mean, I knew my mom and my grandma, and that was it. That's everything I knew on that side. And so Lunar New Year's was always the big holiday for us. and I always saw the lions, and I thought they were real. I wanted to hug. I wanted to take the one home from the store because I thought he was real, and I love the noise. I'm a really noisy guy, and so that was going on, and that'll lead up to this. You'll see, but so that's always been part of my life, a big part of my, what I enjoy. And so anyway, so eventually I started going to I switched over to Kung Fu. My first teacher was actually from Vietnam. He was really good. He beat me up with his pinky. I thought, this is awesome. And
wait a minute, he beat you up with his
yeah,
pinky.
he was like pokey, he was really good with points. And you have ways of training your fingers so they're really strong. And it's part of the iron palm training. And so something that I haven't been working on it lately, but you hit a bag first is filled with mung beans.
With what?
Then you hit mung beans. They're like these little green beans.
Okay.
And they're hard though. Like when you get kidney beans or something like that at the store, and you have to soak them. And then you move from there to rocks. You hit bags full of rocks. And then
on your hands.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know that you're making the progress when they start to powder and shout, and they kind of powder and break up. And so then they go through the weave of the bag, and you can see the powder on the bottom. And then you move to steel.
So just to interrupt, when they get the rocks, what kind of rock? I mean, is it just, what kind of rocks are there? Are they a special kind of rocks, or just any kind of rocks that you put in a bag?
Well, any kind, but if they have a lot of sharp edges, they're very
right.
It's kind of like this.
So it's uncomfortable.
I try and get them. I like to get river rocks or something like that. And you can start with small ones, but I get ones that are maybe around this size. I don't know whether you can tell. Right. But they're maybe half an inch. So it's a little bit rocky, a little bit like that. And you just, there's a whole thing about how to do iron palm. And a lot of people do it wrong, and then they end up with gnarly hands. Sure. But the idea is that, and you can hit it this way too. That's what I was going with, like with the tips of your fingers, you paw this way, and then here, 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 here. There's like a lot of different ways. And what happens, they say it makes the bone stronger, but what I've noticed is that it also increases, I think, the density of the muscle fiber of the flesh itself. And so when you hit somebody, you don't need as much force, and it hurts a lot. And I understand. And I've used it. And people, and I don't mean to, like, everybody to, you're too right. It's like, I'm trying to be nice, but it's a thing where you don't even realize it, except that you notice like a weight, a heft in your hand and things like that. But you don't want, some of these guys, like, what's the guy, Master Pan, I think it was in Toronto or something, but those guys like had this idea that you hit it, and the idea is, and a lot of karate guys, is to build up all these calluses and to break and rebuild. That's totally wrong. How the hell are you going to grab somebody by the throat, right? Or whatever, right? So we like grab throat or grab arm or whatever. You need a good grip.
You need flexible hand, right? You need to be able to move
strong hands that can control people. And so I mean, I think that I do believe that they believe, I feel that they believe this was what was right, but it doesn't make sense. It's not right. So you get this, so your hands remain supple and things like that, but heavy, strong, and then very light strikes even can cause welting and things like that. It's really good. Anyway.
Okay. So you're back to, so you were talking about, so you learned all of these things. You learned judo first, right?
Oh yeah. And so he was hitting me with his
the pinky.
Yeah, to make a point.
Okay.
Because young guys, we're like arrogant, So he was like, I'll show you a lesson, you young whippersnapper. So he did that, and then I moved to Pittsburgh, and I had some bad teachers, and it was nice to have, at least for a little while, a good one, because it's easier for me to see. But eventually I ended up with my master, and
So
and
like,
he's
wait, take us back. So where were you first before going to Pittsburgh?
the
You
Bay
grew up
Area.
where? Bay Area?
San
And then
Francisco.
and then you moved to Pittsburgh
Yes.
and you found your master eventually. Now, I'm going to ask you another question. What constitutes a bad teacher? Like, what's the difference? Like, did you know that it was that they were bad when
Oh
you were
no,
there, or
I
you
mean, I
eventually?
didn't know he was a bad teacher. And sometimes there, and that's a really good question, because you have teachers who they can be good, but they only know a certain amount. And there are teachers who are more, they don't care. They're lazy. They're in it for money. We call those Mac dojos.
Mac
It's,
dojos.
yeah, McDojos, or like McDonald's.
I see.
So it's a McDojo.
Okay.
And those places, and sometimes they're a little bit of a combination, but the thing about those places, you know, a lot of people get down on them, but they still give you the shell. Okay, so like, you know, when you punch, you know, if you're doing a Shaolin style, you usually from here or here, there's two places what we call chamber, and
Mm-hmm.
then you do a corkscrew, these types of things. The only thing is they don't know how to release power. They couldn't fight to save their life. I have 6-year-olds who can beat like some of these guys, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And because they don't really understand. And you start to realize that when they try and tell you how you apply a skill,
Okay.
and then it doesn't make any sense. It's totally wrong. You are going to get your ass whipped so bad. Was that okay to say on
Yeah,
here?
yeah. I
Uh,
mean,
uh,
this is the
you
internet, so.
you will get your ass kicked so badly if
Uh-huh.
you follow that advice. And there was one school that I'm aware of where that has happened.
Uh-huh.
But the guy charges a lot of money, and he makes a lot of money, and that's what it's about.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then you have, you know, other places that are a little bit, and you know, there's grades too in between.
Okay.
But
So you found your master.
yeah, and boy, I'll tell you what, you know, he teaches based on principles, and oh my God, I am blessed. I am so lucky, because
Uh,
he's like probably one of the best in North America, and he knows so much. Not only that, but Zhao Granji is my maestri. The guy
okay.
is like,
So I'm gonna hold you again. What is a maestri and a master, and what is the difference between the two? Right? Is
oh,
there?
he's Brazilian. So I use the two
Oh, the
differences.
maestri.
Like, yeah, so we say Sifu means, well, Sifu can have a lot of meanings depending on the
Uh-huh.
group you're with.
Uh-huh.
But generally speaking, Sifu is like a dad. So it's like your teacher.
Okay.
But a master is somebody who has like disciples and that sort
Right.
of thing. This is a traditional thing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
some places try to reorganize like karate so Americans could understand, and then they do all this sort of stuff. But maestri is to an Angolero, that's like, actually he's grand maestri. He's a grandmaster,
Okay.
but he is you know, I mean, he's really old. He's like mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he's got huge amounts of knowledge, and I learned so much from him. But Mestre is just master in Portuguese,
Okay. So
and
this is
then you
the
have Contra-Mestre
capoeira.
below that, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the Capoeira. So I'm really lucky in that after all these years, I found a whole bunch of you know, a few good teachers. So for my
Right.
lion dance, I have a really good. My acting teacher is a professor at the School of Drama at Carnegie Mellon, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and you know, I have a really, you know, a great photographer who is helping me with my modeling now and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. So so when you found your master and your maestri, around what year was this? Do you remember? When you moved to Pittsburgh and everything started to come together?
Well, I met my master first, and I
Mm-hmm.
became his disciple in 2009.
Okay. Okay. And is there a formalized process where he says, you are now my disciple, or it just is a natural
Well,
thing?
yeah, you have to ask him. He doesn't ask you.
Oh, oh,
And then
okay.
you have to decide whether you're going to make the commitment. There's a ceremony. We're Chinese. Come on,
You
we're
do
full of
everything with
all formal.
ceremony?
Yeah, you know we are so formal, and and the
Uh-huh.
Brazilians loved it, right? So I'm here, and I grew up in this thing. Actually, I'm a little bit more traditional in some ways, and
Uh-huh.
my sifu is from China, and so those guys nowadays are not quite. I actually grew up pretty traditional.
Uh-huh.
And so that's another word for OCD a little bit, and like
Uh-huh.
constrained and like do like this. And
Uh,
so Brazilians, at least in my experience, they can be tricky and they're more free spirited and they're always trying to get me into trouble. And here I am, like very Confucian. They're, no, no, and they're trying to get me. You cannot do this. Like they were like just laughing, and it's like, but it was great because it kind of opened me up. And my sifu is very very cool, and he taught me how to have not such a hot head because I was very inclined to get into fights when I was younger.
I
And
see. I
so
see.
why are you getting a fight? Who cares about these things? You know,
Uh,
you need to be Dao. This need to be Tai Chi. So I've learned a lot from my teachers, not just how to fight, but how to not.
and so I'm going to ask you a question. So if I wanted to, I'm a little kid or I'm a young person, even an adult, when I walk into the school, what am I going to learn first? Like, do I have to pick something, or is there a general course that I can get an idea, like a little sample of what it is, sample, a
Well,
sample of what
what?
you do, or how would it work?
Yeah, well, what I do is I let you try for free one of every style I do.
Uh-huh.
But then between the if you don't know anything, then you need to choose between the eagle claw, the yin jiao, the tongbei, which is the white ape, and the Xing-Yi. Xing-Yi and Bagua are taught together because they're complementary.
Mm-hmm.
So it's common. Not everybody does that, but it's common, especially around Beijing, to teach them both. They're each stand well together, but boy, combined, they're just like ah. But sorry. But so I have you choose one of those because in the beginning, if you try and do all three of them, you might start crossing them, and especially when you're starting, you need to be clear what you're doing. The Tai Chi and Capoeira are different, quite different.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can take those in addition, but you have to choose. If you're going to choose one of those three, you have to choose one. But you can try each one and see where you want to start. But ideally, of course, being a teacher, I would want them to learn everything if they like it.
Yeah. In our previous conversation, which was what, 2 days ago or so, you talked about how you knew these styles, and they were very different styles, and uh, styles that like most people in this genre don't necessarily have together. Is that correct? That they know all those
Yeah,
reasons?
it's usually my kung fu family is a little bit unusual in that it's very broad. Now the
Mm-hmm.
Ying Jiao, I actually got. We have connections to that, but that I got that before I was part of this family, this kung fu family. But it's a Shaolin style, and Shaolin is really the basis for lion dance. So if you don't have, one of the big characteristics about Shaolin is strong stances. And if you're going to lion dance, you have to have strong stances and you have to have certain things. So that's the connection, is that lion dance is built on top of Kung Fu, primarily Siulam or Shaolin styles.
Okay.
So that's why that. The Yeah, so they but they are quite different. So the Tongbei, actually, I was just hearing it's really MA, but a lot of people call it a Wudang style.
Okay.
But it works differently. So Shaolin has all those well-known stance and things like that. It's very external. Tongbei is a little bit in between internal and external. And, you know, Shaolin can be soft or hard. So hard, we mean it goes directly against force. So karate is like that, or at least American karate. If you go to Japan, it doesn't look that way. But, you know, if somebody goes here, you hit this way, right? So that's hard. If somebody hits this way and you brush and catch, you know, you follow, that's soft. Internal, well, first external is just very tight muscle. My arm is very strong. I hit you this way, right? Internal is more integrated. It's harder to see where the force is. So if I hit you, say with the Xing-Yi feeling, they often describe it is, if I'm coming straight, it feels like I'm coming from the side. If it comes from the side, it feels like I'm hitting you straight, because you sort of have a sense of a spinning ball all the time when you're using that. And so when you hit somebody, but it's hard to see, you have to feel it. And I felt it. And it's different. I mean, my sifu, oh boy. I remember the first time, so Xing-Yi is based on 5 elements. And the first time he said, he was showing me this idea, and he said, block this, and he did like this, uppercut, and oh no, he told me to block that. So he go this way, and I block, you know, directly down, and you think, oh, well, that'll stop it. No, instead of boom, it went flying back. I got this, and I did. And I went, Los Angeles, who had a group, and he wanted me to demonstrate. And so I said, okay, block this. And he would go like that. And he goes, how'd you do that? You know, he flew a few feet, you know.
So in other words, like, so when you do a movement, when you make a movement, sometimes you're using the counter, right? Or to leverage maybe the opposite direction, or how?
You need to, it's where your mind goes, right? So it's difficult to describe, but basically I would say, number one, if I'm punching with this thing and my mind stops here, my force is not going to go past here.
Okay.
But if I think all the way there, even if something stops me here, my idea will keep on following.
Right, I understand that.
Physically, you know, we also don't like, let me see if I can get my show. So we don't feel this, we feel here. So the whole body is involved. Whereas a lot of times you see brawlers who are not trained, and they're just depend on, oh, I lift weights and this way, right? So, but we don't. So a lot of and we keep this very soft and smooth until the last minute, and so the force can travel all the way through your body and have the impact. But seeing that is difficult. And so a lot of people don't believe us. I don't even know if my
well, I mean, look, it's one of those things where there's an element of, well, it's called martial arts, right? So there's an element of things that you don't see until the last minute. Like anything artistic is gonna, there's a form, there's a power, and the power sometimes shows up when you least expect it, right? And this is also in dance, and this is also visual art, also, you know, in film. Like you're trying to constantly, this is my take on it, you're constantly using lines or your mind or the things that initially people cannot see, right? And you're uncovering and you're uncovering. That's well, let me ask you this. There's a list in your the background that you guys that are watching the video can see on the what is it, on his right? There's like a list of different things that you teach at the school, and on your left there's a picture of you. And just move a little bit to the right so people can see the full. And then
that's me doing Tai Chi.
So I'm going to ask 3 things, right? There's the sword work, right? And there's the tiger, the lion dance, and I think we covered the different areas of the different styles that you teach, each one of them. Is there anything specific about each one of the styles? First with the styles, is there anything specific about the styles that we should know, like sort of in one one not sentence, but one word or two words that would
Oh,
distinguish them?
well, okay, I'll start with the simplest one. Ego Claw is based largely on gripping and locking, joint
Mm-hmm.
locking, things
Yeah.
like that. Otherwise, and it's built largely on top of Shaolin. It's got tumbling and stuff. Tongbei, Baiwan Tongbei is Baiwan is a white ape. And so this idea is he's relaxed and he's moving and his mind is tricky and clever. So that part is mostly more about the mind than imitating the animal a
Okay.
little bit. But the Tongbei is where we get into this integration that I'm talking about, where you have the ability to move the power through your back between your arms. So sometimes we say back or arms, and there's a lot of styles that use the word Tongbei, but they have different meanings and they're not necessarily related. But for us, it's called sure style, and it feels a little bit like if you have a hoodie, you know, and these are your little things, and you pull this, it goes here. If you pull this, it goes here. Or if you're like it's stuck and you're using a hanger, you push it and it goes this way. So that's that. And then Xing-Yi is based on a traditional Chinese idea of 5 elements.
Mm-hmm.
And each element has a shape and a direction and a concept. And then it's got, well, depending on the style, we use 12 animals. And those are like tiny little forms that are skills where you combine your elements together. So once you get to know each element, then you can kind of mix them together to get, you know, different types of force. Bagua is a lot about changing, but it's basically based on what we call the 8 forces of nature. And it's well known for, like, you know, the training usually goes around in circles. That's not necessarily true with Liu style, but that's more of a linear, very application type of thing, which is a lot of times layered on top of something like we do yin. We also do chan, but yin is our main style. And then Tai Chi is a lot about changing and sensing. And it's got something in common with Angola in that. But they both talk about conversations, and Tai Chi is very specific, but very, you know, you really have to feel. We don't practice hitting people very much because that's easy to do. But it doesn't mean if you engage with a Tai Chi person, we won't punch you in the nose. But there's a lot of controlling and there's a lot of strategy involved with that. It's a particular one. Angola is based on 3 main ideas, and that is malicia, malandrage, and manjinga. And malicia is a lot like observation and remembering. So you're aware of everything. You saw this person here. You saw how they were behaving, like that. The capoeira is a lot like life. You know, that's what Maestro says. And then malandrage is tricky. What's that over there? You know, and then like that. Like I was well, my friend used to get me all the time. He's really tricky. Manjinga is a thing. They say you can't teach it. You can only train it and develop it. It's sort of like Qi. And I mean, it's not like Qi. It's kind of like magic. It's, you know, it's like giving an illusion. So that sometimes my maestro will do something, I could swear to God he was doing one thing and he's somewhere else. If I could give you a story, because it's one of my favorite stories. It's about first meeting him at a workshop. And he was already, well, he was around 70 time, I believe. And he's coming in there and he's wearing these white golf pants, white shirt, you know, a golf cap type of thing, and these heavy old man shoes. And he goes, "We're going to go, you're going to negativa, which is to go on the floor, put your hands on the floor sort of sideways, and I'm going to kick you in the face." And I'm going, come on, old man. Just told me what you're going to do. How are you going to get me to do that? So we go, Quino. He gets me to negativa and he kicks me in the face 3 times in a row. And I go, and I was like, they're watching. He's not going to get me this time, right? He's not. And he got me down there every time.
Did he have a shoe on, or did he? I mean, was this barefoot or?
He didn't really kick me
like
in the face.
kind of
He
soft?
put it like right there.
I
No,
see.
I will tell you that my Sifu and my Maestri are the
Uh-huh.
reasons why I'm a better person than I used to be.
I see. You were arrogant or something like that, or obnoxious, as they say. No.
I was a really angry guy.
Oh, you were angry. Okay.
I was in
All right.
fights a lot. Well, not a lot, but enough.
Enough.
And I was like, I've got to learn this. But I would say that that could be a bit of an example of Manjinga, is that, you know, before you know it, they lead you in a place. And Tai Chi has this idea where we say, I want to know you, but I don't want you to know me, and leading people into voids. So my Sifu describes it as like, instead of throwing rocks harder and harder, you lead them to a well so they drop down the well. Then it doesn't matter because they're stuck in the well, and you just drop as many rocks as you feel like on top of them.
Yeah, yes, I understand. Well, the concepts are very interesting, but as you're describing them, I mean, there's a beauty in it, but there's also, of course, you know, almost a beauty and violence together, right? I mean, that's the idea, at least part of it. And there's a mental training as well, right? I mean, there is which from what I can sense, that it's not enough just to do the moves. You have to really embody what's taking place.
Yeah, well, that's why they say there's a conversation going on. We call it listening, but it's you're watching, you're feeling everything. You could also call it sensing, but both Maestri and my Sifu say it is, you know, it's a conversation, and you have to, if you don't know what they're saying, how do you know what to say back?
Yeah, sure.
And when you test them, you're basically asking a question. So in both styles, that's these two, Angola and Tai Chi, are very, in particular, very high level, in my opinion, from the strategy point of view. And it only works. That's why it's hard to get them to work. But when you understand and when you're good, boy, you can do a lot with them. But you know, the nice thing about all these things, not to, because I don't want people to think I'm a super violent guy or anything, is all these actually develop you as a human being, and you're feeling. I mean, there's a physical part, yes, but there's something about these types of interactions which, you know, to me anyway, makes my energy better. I always feel much better, energized, actually warmer after I do my Tai Chi form, stuff like that. And I feel happy after I do Angola, after I play a game. I am like the happiest guy in the world. Yeah. So Angola can be a dance. You know, capoeira can be a dance, it can be a game, or it can be a fight. It can be all of those things.
Sure. Let me ask you real quick about the sword work, and then we'll talk about the lion dance. When did you start learning the sword, doing the sword work?
Oh, I've been doing sword a long time. I guess in the 2000s. I like sword. I mean, I do sword, I do spear, I do battle axes, I do dagger. I've been working on chain whip and 3 sections staff. I do staff. Yeah, I enjoy weapons, but I have to say the different swords I enjoy a lot. Especially Bagua, though. It's just amazing. But I can't actually tell you why. I
understand.
I like sharp objects, I guess.
And with lion dance, and how long have you been doing that. I mean, that was what you were really interested in, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. When I moved to Pittsburgh, actually, that's when I said I was kind of at the McDojo, and I realized, or that, you know, that place I was before I met my master. I mean, I learned some things that I don't like that guy, but I can't say that, you know, there weren't like basic movements I didn't learn. And I knew already, of course, that lion dance is based on on it. And I became a senior student there. So I bugged him until we got a lion. And so I learned a very basic one, and I knew there was more. And I discovered my line dance mentor. And what happened, he's in San Francisco. And, you know, we were like part of this group. So there was all this discussion about lions. And I found out he was doing a wedding in Chicago. And so I sent him an email and said, can I come over and watch you do that wedding?
Right.
And he said, sure. And so I jumped on a plane the next day and flew out. And I slept on the floor. I got to watch the practice. And oh, it was so freaking amazing. And there's like these third characters and all this music and gongs and drums. And oh my God.
How many people were in the way? I mean, how many people? There's the line, but then there are other. He's not, or she's not the only one there, right? I mean, there's a whole procession, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they actually had 3 lions, plus a baby lion, plus all the musicians, plus a Daito foot, which is the big-headed Buddha, and that's the third character. And I think that, yeah, they had Bappo, and they had like basically 3 different types of routines, and I loved it. And he saw that how much I cared about line dance, and so he accepted. You know, he said he would teach me. And so
there was a formal ask. You had to ask, and then he said yes, or was it that?
Well, I just asked him. That our relationship, it's kind of funny. That's very ABC, right? So I American born Chinese.
Okay.
So it is a little bit. Our relationship is kind of Chinese and kind of American. He is actually. I understand our tradition. You know, my auntie taught me a lot of our traditions because my dad was not so much traditional. He was traditional in certain ways, especially like the stern daddy and all this, like, you had the look as a, like, you know, all these kind of things that you go and, you know, and because my mom was not Chinese, he covered the guilt well too. But my auntie knew all the traditions and all this. He knew a lot of them. But my line dance teacher knows a lot of the really formal stuff and a lot of all the, also he was really good at making me a good person, especially from a Confucian point of view. And so we had that, but it's complicated, but he's more like my big brother.
I understand.
So I should say. It's hard if you don't if you didn't grow up in the culture. It'll take a long time to explain.
Well, I the reason why I keep asking is because I've had teachers and I have mentors, but there has never been a formal invitation, right?
Well,
so there's never been a formal, like, I want you to come. And well, I mean, it's never like, it's never formal. It's always sort of a weird, somehow you're just there, right? You start going and, you know.
What I should be clear on is they didn't invite me. That's not actually the traditional way. I had to, as a matter of fact, actually, I was supposed to be, I think they expected me to ask earlier, and I didn't realize. And so I finally asked my sifu, and that's the same with my maestri, because I was learning with somebody else before, but he was more like contemporary. I mean, he said he was Angola, but actually what you saw was more mixed. And I realized that maestri, that's where my heart was, you know? That's what I wanted to do. And we had a long talk, and I asked him if I could become a student, you know, because I was moving, and you know, loyalties and all that sort of stuff. It's important in these types of art.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, there's some things that I'm thinking about in comparison with dance, but we're going to move into this other area, which you got scouted as a model by accident. I want to make sure that I cover that and the acting. So tell me a little bit. Well, tell me as much as you know about how did this happen, and take us to this point.
The modeling part is just I've worked on a lot of Asian issues here, and there aren't a lot of us in Pittsburgh. You know, there's a little bit more now because, you know, the universities got more, but inside the community, you know, the regular Pittsburgh, there wasn't much. So half is better than nothing, you know, basically. I think that's what my agency was thinking. So like, we need some Asians. We need some Asians. Who will we, you know? And of course, also, a lot of times, you know, including myself, a lot of Asians are reticent about that sort of thing. I thought models were stupid people. I had no idea what went into them. I was thinking like, oh, darling, let's have tea today. Oh, mushy, 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 all this kind of stuff. That was my my idea of what a model was. And actors too, to be honest with you. I have since learned that actually a fair amount goes into it.
Sure.
But I figured, okay, well, you know, why not? And so I shot, and my first thing was for Whirlpool, Amanda Whirlpool, and that was fun. And this lady I was working with, this girl, she was awesome. She was another Asian, and we were doing like this cooking scene, and she didn't know how to cut vegetables. So no, you just do like this, and they were loving it. I was going, hey, this is easy, this is good. And I said, oh man, I could do this. So I went up to New York. I went to a go-see, and they go, one, two guys were like that. It's like, holy shit, you know, this is harder than I thought. And then
so the first one was in Pittsburgh. The first job was in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Okay,
I did a few, and then I thought, oh, I can hit.
Then you had it. Right.
Yeah, you can tell I was a cocky little bastard, right?
And then you got to New York, and then it's you know, so the energy is different, and they expect you to kind of, you know a lot of things. And
yeah, well, I mean, it's serious is the real thing up there. Here is a very small market. I'm not saying it's not real, but they're more tolerant because, you know, you're not going to really. It's hard to make a living if you're going to be a model here, but you can do it in New York if you're good.
Yeah.
And but it was eye-opening. I mean, it's great growth for me, you know.
Because you were put in a situation that you were not necessarily.
I wasn't ready at all.
You weren't ready.
Yeah, it seems like I have to be learned by getting hit in the head a couple of times, huh?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That's the way it is. No different than what we're going through now, right? I mean, no different than.
Well, you know, I am learning a lot by trying to rejigger my teaching, you know, for this stupid.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like online is not the same, and the acting came out of the modeling.
Yeah. So.
Someone said, "Okay, you
friend of mine." What was that?
Yeah, someone saw you modeling, and you know, give us the.
No. I had a friend who was actually. Oops, sorry.
No.
I had a friend who was a pretty good model, and he suggested, "Oh, try acting." And you know, and I started thinking, yeah, you know, modeling is kind of like doing a vignette. It's like a story in a picture. Right. That's right. So I could pick up that concept. And so I took an acting class, which wasn't very good, but then I happened to run into this teacher, and she getting ready for somebody ready for conservatory. And I found out about her classes. And I swear to God, I was like Eliza Doolittle, and she was Professor Higgins or something. Because I mean, I think she was there thinking, he's never going to do it, but she probably she's a professor, but her husband is too. So I have in the back of my mind them making a bet whether they can actually make me an actor.
I understand.
And it was hard because there is a lot. I mean, I think, we talk a lot about how there's no Asians in movies, and I think a lot of it is I think at least some of it's prejudice, but some of it's us because of our culture. Like she says, yeah, at least in a traditional Boy Like Me,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing this romancing with a girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a good person, you never touch that girl.
Right.
You make Google eyes, and that she said, "No, touch her, be sexy." No, sexy is wrong. I fought her, and she was driving me crazy. So, okay, fine. You want sexy? I'll give you sexy. I say in my mind. So,
right, sure.
Okay, go again. And I ripped off my shirt. I grabbed this girl and kissed her right on the mouth. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how do you like that? My teacher fell off her chair, and this girl never talked to me again. But I was, but it's been huge growth for me because we aren't that, if you're traditional, typically we're not, real outgoing. My whole family is not. They all think I'm crazy. I don't actually talk to them anymore.
You have to do certain things in acting that aren't necessarily, and if you, let's say there's certain people that are able to do that with ease, right? They can do it because, they have a certain disposition. But if you grew up with a sort of a template, a cultural template, and I can say that for me as well. I mean, I had a template, even though I'm an artist. It took me a long time to be able to even say, oh, I'm an artist. I didn't say it until I was maybe 30 or maybe even longer, right? So if I relate to what you're saying 100%, and it does have an impact, but, all of these different things that you're doing, I mean, I'm imagining myself as a student. I'm thinking, oh my God, like I would be going through it. Like, I mean, I would have a hard time even making the shift to what you're talking about with your school. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it can be a little bit hard each time, but when after a couple of times you realize how much it's worth it to do that work because you grow. And and I've learned so much, especially from the acting, and also from the modeling in a different way, well, similar, but is how to be free and how to be yourself, and how to, you can, my mentor, my modeling mentor says, what you do is not who you are. And to allow yourself to travel to that place, and a little bit of you is there, but you're just experiencing all these things, and it broadens you as a human being. And in all honesty, it makes the things that I know as a fighter better, right? So when somebody's coming at you with a baseball bat, you are in the moment. And it's really easy to focus because they want to kill you. I've been in this situation. And but to get that kind of focus when you're not in danger is a lot harder, right? So but if you can do that, then your fighting also becomes better. So all of these things help build you together. And what I would like to do is eventually be able to do a movie where I can actually act credibly. I can be a good actor and do good fighting. So a lot of times in the movies, if you have really good actors, the fight is so boring. So if you have really good fighters, the acting is, oh, I am going to be so mad at you, this kind of thing. And so I would like to be able to be complete in this respect, be play a believable character and do interesting, good fighting scenes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I'm going to end it here, but there's so many other questions. I mean, I wasn't able to talk to you about film work, or, you know, you mentioned it toward the end of your last thought, but there's so much there. And I think another thing that, just so you guys know, another interest that I had with you, with Chris, is learning how to photograph while you're moving, right? So you know, it's my goal to photograph you while you're moving, and then see whether my intuition about how I see the camera working with the body actually would work or not. So we haven't done that yet, but we have to have you back. Hopefully you guys, the people who are watching the video, you've gotten a broad view of all of the different possibilities here. I mean, there's a lot. And, you know, Chris, once, you know, we put this video up, you know, we'll see what the response is, and then we could sort of break it down, like, even, you know, a little bit more. And, you know, hopefully after the COVID, or after the situation is over, we can actually go into your school and figure out a way to film you there. That would be great.
Cool. I hope this came out well. I'm kind of like,
look,
crazy.
it's you know what, it's raw. It's yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, it's everybody's in the same situation. You know, I think it works for a variety of reasons, and I'm hoping that someone that's listening to the video will have heard something that would pique their curiosity and even ask further.
Did I ever tell you, by the way, my nickname that
No,
I got?
what is it?
Seafood Deadpool.
Seafood Deadpool. And what is? And what
Deadpool?
is? Yeah, what's that? Where's that coming from?
You don't know Deadpool? It's my
Oh, Deadpool. Deadpool, the character.
Yeah.
The character. The is it Marvel comic character?
I think so.
Marvel, or maybe DC.
Ryan,
please don't kill me, anybody that's a fan, right? I mean, because it's a big franchise.
It's a big
Marvel. Franchise. Marvel. It's Marvel.
Thing going on. Yeah. But anyway,
yeah, you threw me for a loop, because I know my characters, but then I stopped for a long. I mean, I knew them all. I have comic books at home, in my parents' house. That's still, like, you know, sitting in boxes and stuff.
You got to watch the movie, especially both of them are good. There's two. They are amazing.
There's one that has who stars in the Deadpool?
Ryan Reynolds.
Right, I think, and then in both of them, right?
Yes. Yeah,
right.
He's Deadpool.
But is there someone that's shooting his scenes, the fight scenes? That's not him, is it? That's what I saw it on the plane.
For him, I mainly like the character because he's crazy in the way that I am. But but actually, there's some kind of fun stuff on the ship. I mean, they're more interesting than the usual banging him up, because he's got well, they're funny for one thing, and they've got some weapons and things like that. They're not just the usual punch or whatever. I thought it was good. But to be honest with you, for that particular movie, I was being so entertained that I didn't really like. He gets a knife in the middle of his head, and he's got these little cartoon characters that come floating out and stuff like that.
They played as a lot, not campy, but there's a lot of comic. There's a lot of comic elements.
There's a lot of comic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in a very, is exactly my sense of humor.
So what is the nickname again?
Seafood Deadpool.
Seafood.
Yeah, because I'm a seafood.
Yeah. Okay. Seafood.
I'm a seafood.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Look, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time and your and everything. We're gonna, you know, after this, I'm gonna be like, because I understand it, but I don't, right? So I'm, you know, you guys don't kill me if I mess anything up here when I'm talking to him. But there are similarities between what I do and what he knows. I just don't know what it is yet.
I think that there are, for sure. We can talk about technique, spotting, stuff like that.
Yeah. And I was a gymnast first. That's how I started. I was a gymnast first, and then I became a dancer.
I was a gymnast too.
Yeah. So in terms of the body, it's really, you know, there are limits that I haven't even tested yet. And I've been working, you know, in this and sitting in front of a computer for so long. I mean, I'm like, oh, I'm getting a little nervous that, you know, certain things are not reversible. But I'll be working on it during this period of time. So thank you. I'll let you
Thank
go,
you.
and
Okay.
we'll talk afterwards, right?
Sounds good.
All right, take care.
Okay, ciao.